the 7 major steps to buying a home in Denver, and an 8th one just for funsies. Stay tuned. What's up guys, my name is Lewi Gault. Thank you for tuning in. If you haven't had the chance to already, go ahead, like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell, do all the stuff that it's telling you to do up here. That would mean the world to me. I am putting out content every week here on tips and tricks for real estate in Denver for buyers, sellers, and investors. Today we're going to be talking about buying a home in Denver and the 7 major steps that it takes to achieve that process and get through it smoothly. The home buying process can seem overwhelming for some people, and rightly so. There's a lot going on. But if you break it down into little steps and the major things that you have to do, it can seem a lot less chaotic and it'll freak you out a little bit less, so you can have fun with it and get through the process smoothly to the other side of the main goal of buying a home. So, without further ado, let's get into these steps. Okay, step 1, as it happens, is the most boring one, unfortunately, but let's get it out of the way, then we can get to the fun stuff. Step number 1, the biggest thing that you have to do, and the biggest mistake that a lot of people make, you can see in this video, is getting pre-approved. You have to get your finances in order before you start looking for a home. Otherwise, you're just wasting your own time and you're going to get heartbroken. Now, if you've watched a lot of my videos, you'll probably be bored to death of this fact because I talk about it all the time, but it is a huge mistake that people make, that they don't look into financing before shopping for a home, and then their finances don't match up with the homes they want, and it's a big disaster. So you need to talk to a lender. Now, if you're paying cash, that's a whole nother issue. Do your thing, you know? But if not, like the majority of us, then you have to talk to a lender. And remember, talking to a lender isn't tying you into anything. It's not a contract to buy a home. It doesn't mean anything. It provides you a financial snapshot of the kind of home that you can afford and how much you can pay for that home. But the most important thing that you need to do is figure out what your mortgage payment is going to be on that pre-approval. So figuring out what that monthly payment looks like in your monthly budget for you and your family to make sure you can still live a life that you like and is fun and stuff like that, and you're not just tied down to this house with nothing else to do. So financing, get it in order before we move on to the next step. Okay, so going from the most boringest one to the most funnest one, step number 2 is searching for a home. Now this is one of the most fun parts of this whole process because we're now going to look for a home to buy. We're going to go and check them all out and find that perfect home for you. Now there's a lot to get through here. There's a lot of little intricacies that you might not have thought of. One of the things that I give to all my buyers before we start looking is a buyer's guide. Now you can download that in the description below. That is completely free. Download that. That'll give you a whole list of everything that we're talking about today. And it'll also give you a checklist and a little thing to fill in about what kind of home you're looking for, what things are most important to you in a home, and it will really provide a better picture of what exactly we are looking for. Now, once we've done all that, then we can get on to the search. Now, a lot of people use Zillow to search, and a ton of people and my clients send me homes from Zillow, which is great. But to do a more in-depth search, you want to be using the MLS. The MLS is available to realtors where we can really dig into a search. So if you're looking for a 3-car garage, if you're looking for a plus 55 community, if you're looking for an HOA that isn't more than $250 a month, that kind of thing you can't search for in Zillow, but you can dig in on the MLS. So the more we can deep dive into exactly what you're looking for, the easier it's going to be to find you that home that's perfect for you. And remember, in this process, we're always trying to narrow down the search. If we just say, okay, I'm looking for a 3-bed, 2-bath. Okay, well, there might be a bunch of those and they're all going to be different. You want to go and see 200 homes? Probably not, because it does get exhausting. I have a rule with my clients that every time we go out to see homes, 6 is the maximum homes you see at once because they all start blurring into one and you can't remember which one had the nice yard, which one had the new roof, and it's a nightmare. So we want to narrow down the search to exactly what you're looking for and then go out and see those properties. So we've been shopping online, we've been going out and checking out all these houses, and now we've found the perfect home for you. It's time to move on to step number 3, to make an offer. Okay, it's time to get serious. We're about to make some moves. We're going to submit an offer for your dream home. This is exciting, but we need to do it properly. Now in Denver, verbal offers are not legally enforceable, so they have to be done on a written contract. Thankfully, we live in the age of technology, so everything now is done online. All the contracts I send over to you, you click them and sign them and do all the jazz, and it's done. You don't have to write with ink, you don't have to do any of that stuff. It's super easy. Now with the contracts that we put together, we have an outline by the Colorado Real Estate Commission, and we'll fill in the blanks for the little intricacies that we want to put forward in an offer. So once we send the offer over to the seller, they can do one of three things. They can accept the offer, happy days. They can counter the offer, okay, we'll figure that out, we'll get it done. And they can reject the offer. But obviously they won't reject our offer because our offer is golden, so they're going to accept the offer, and now we are officially under contract. Excellent. Now we're under contract, there's a bunch of deadlines and a bunch of things we need to get out of the way, so let's get to that first milestone in the contract, which is the delivery of earnest money. Alright, so earnest money, what is it? Earnest money is kind of like you saying to the seller, hey, I'm the real deal. Here's a little bit of cash. We're not giving it to them, but we're just putting it up front. It's like a buy-in in poker, right? We're just showing them that we can play the game. Now, typically in Denver, it's 1% of the purchase price. So for a $500,000 home, we're going to give an earnest money check or a wire of $5,000. And that deposits right there and then. Now, once it's deposited, it doesn't go to the seller. The seller doesn't get that $5,000 and be like, cool, I'm going to stick this in my pocket until closing. No, it goes to the title company who are going to facilitate the whole contract. So the title company are going to hold that $5,000 until the contract is either completed or terminated, at which point they decide which party it should go to. Now, an earnest money check is fully refundable if the contract is terminated for a valid reason. So if there's a loan objection that we have, something's not going right with our loan for some reason, in most cases we can terminate the contract and get that $5,000 back. If it's an inspection issue, so if we get there and the foundation is rotten and the house is a complete nightmare, then we can terminate over inspection and get our money back. So in most cases, you don't see too much of a dispute about earnest money. So title are going to hold that earnest money until we get to the closing table. And once we're closing on the property, that $5,000 goes towards your down payment and all the loan stuff that you're doing. So it's really part of your loan. It's part of your down payment, that $5,000. But once we get through the contract, that just goes into the loan and the down payment and it is used for all of your costs. So that's your earnest money. It is a big deal because a contract isn't valid until earnest money is deposited. Typically, from when we go under contract, we have 3 days after going under contract to deposit that money. So if that money is not deposited, the contract becomes void on day number 4. So make sure we get that earnest money check and get it delivered within 3 days, and we're golden. All right, we're moving on to the 4th step in the home buying process, which is the inspection. Ooh, the inspection. What's going to be wrong with the house? So the inspection, typically, the way I see it, is the biggest hurdle to get over in the whole contract, because that's where the buyer and seller really get an input into what's going on in the contract. Before that and after that, it's pretty much, the loan officer doing a bunch of stuff, I'm doing a bunch of stuff, but the clients don't really do too much. This is where they both really get involved in the contract, and that's why it can be a little tricky sometimes because personalities start to come to the forefront. We might see a little bit of pride come into the equation. We might see a bit of a standoff between the two parties. And this is where, as brokers, we come in and help out getting the deal done. So this is how inspection works. The buyer typically pays for the inspection. Denver, usually it's around $400 to $500, depending on the size of the house. And you'll want to also get a sewer scope and a radon test. So the home inspector is going to come to the house. He's going to go head to toe through the whole thing. He's going to check out the roof, the foundation, the electric, the plumbing, everything that's going on. He's going to check the whole house out, and his job or her job is to tell you the worst things going on with the house. Their whole job is to break this house down into what's wrong with it. So when you're at an inspection, it can sometimes seem like a lot because the home inspectors will just point out every single thing that's going on with the house. A lot of times, things aren't that big of a deal. You just want to deal with the majors. So after the inspection's done and you're completely freaked out, The home inspector will send over a home inspection report outlining everything that's going on with the house, including the sewer scope and the radon testing if you've chosen to do that too, which I absolutely would suggest. And then we'll look at that report together, go through everything, and really outline the things that you want to include, because it's up to you at the end of the day. I will advise you on what I think is worth asking for, but you can ask for whatever you want. Now, the key to this, and I say this to every single one of my clients, is not to get petty. The little things that you can go to Home Depot and fix for like 25, 30 bucks, maybe even 100 bucks, including them isn't really worth it for me. You want to be looking at the majors. You want to be looking at the HVAC system. You want to be looking at the water heater, the roof, the foundation, the electrics, the plumbing. Those big major ones that actually cost a lot to fix and that could really go wrong with your house in the next few years, that's the major ones you want to be addressing. So after we've discussed everything and we say, okay, these are the things that we are going to ask for, we put that into what's called an inspection objection and we send it to the sellers. Now, just like the offer, they can come back in three ways. They can say, okay, we'll do all the things that you asked for. They can negotiate and they'll say, okay, you know what, I'll do half of this stuff, but the other half we're not interested in doing. Or they can say, nah, we're not doing anything. And at that point, we have to figure out what we're going to do. But typically, for the most part, they're going to do option 1 or 2. Now, they might not actually fix everything themselves. They might offer you a credit in lieu of repairs at the closing table. So say that everything we've asked for is going to come to a total of, say, $10,000 to fix everything. They might just say, okay, we'll give you $10,000 off of your closing costs, or we'll give you $10,000 off the price of the home, whichever way. Typically, that's done a lot here in Denver, just because a lot of people don't have the time to get everything fixed. So we may negotiate a little bit, we may look at different things, we may get people to go out there and look at how much things are going to cost to make sure that they are giving us an accurate figure. There's a bunch going into this, and like I said, this is why it's the biggest hurdle to get over, because there's such a lot going on. You don't want to be buying a house that's going to break 3 years down the line, 2 years down the line, the water heater is going to burst, the electrics are short, the roof is a nightmare. You don't want to buy a house like that. But again, the seller doesn't want to fix everything. They don't want to have to put another $20,000 into a home that they're going to leave. So there's a lot of back and forth, there's a lot of negotiating on the part of the agents, and this is why it's the biggest hurdle and a huge thing to get over. And again, going back to the EARNEST money, if we get an inspection and the house is a nightmare, then we can terminate on inspection and get that EARNEST money back and go and find a different house that's perfect for you. So that, in a nutshell, is the inspection process. Okay, let's move on. Number 5, the 5th biggest thing that we're going to move on to next is the appraisal. Now, the appraisal is completed by a third party hired by your lender, which you still pay for, by the way. It's usually about $600-800, something like that. But what they do is they go and check out the home and appraise it to make sure that you're paying a fair market value for the home. So if your offer was $500,000, they want to go out and make sure that is worth $500,000. They do comps of all the homes in the neighborhood. They look at how many bedrooms, how many bathrooms, what kind of condition the home is in. They look at all those factors and they come back to us with an appraisal number. And at that point, depending on what comes back, there's a few different options. If the appraisal comes back at $500,000, excellent, we're paying what it's worth. The appraisal might come back above $500,000, which means you've made money already. So if it comes back at $520,000, excellent. Once we close on the home, your equity already went up by $20,000. This is fantastic. But if it comes below what we are paying, then we can dispute and we can send an appraisal objection. So the home is $500,000, that's what we're paying for it. If the appraisal comes in at $480,000, we're $20,000 off the mark, and the lender's not going to be happy about that because they don't want to give you a loan for a home that is worth less than what you are paying for it with their loan. So at that point, we're going to object to the seller. So we're going to send an appraisal objection that says, hey, this house is worth $20,000 less than what we are under contract for. We need to get the price lowered and negotiate that down. Now, again, it goes back to the seller. They can do 3 things. They can say, yep, we'll do that, no problem at all. They can try and negotiate with us, or they can say no. And at that point, we terminate. Now, with the appraisal stuff, 9 out of 10 times, probably more than that, we're going to get through appraisal. If something needs to be adjusted, it gets adjusted, because at the end of the day, everyone wants to get to the closing table. And with the appraisal, if we ended up cancelling and they fell out of contract and then someone else tried to buy the home, it's going to appraise at the same value. So they may as well just adjust the price and figure it out with us. So the appraisal, big one to get through just before closing, but well worth it. Okay, number 6, the boring stuff is almost over. This is fun. Okay, this is going to be preparing to move. So there's actually a few things that you need to get on top of here. We're not just waiting to the last day of closing to transfer everything. You need to be proactive on this, and your agent needs to guide you through this. One of the biggest things is to select a homeowner's insurance policy. It's your responsibility to choose this company. A lot of people contact who they have car insurance with and try and get a bundle that way. Whichever way you do it, it's your responsibility to find homeowners insurance, and then once you have that, give all that information over to the lender. They need that before closing, so you need to give them your agent's name, your homeowner's insurance policy, and all that good stuff. So you need to contact homeowners insurance. You can wait till after inspection to get this done, but after that, start looking into that. Get your homeowner's insurance policy and give that information to your lender. Now, the other things you start having to take care of is utilities. Depending on the contract and what's in there, some things transfer automatically and some things don't. So find out from your agent and from your lender and from the title company which ones are going to go automatically. But you've got water, you've got electricity, you've got cable maybe. Whatever's in the home, you need to figure out what is transferring automatically. One of the biggest transfer issues that we see here in Denver is solar. Solar is a nightmare. So if the house you're buying has solar panels, we need to find out really quick if that is a lease or if they're owned outright. If they're owned outright, great, you just got solar panels on your home and that's all fine and dandy. But if it's a lease, that can take a long time to get the transfer moving. Solar companies are notorious for taking a while to get that transfer moving. Who knows why? No diss to solar, it's just the way it is. So you need to make sure you're on top of all of these things that you need to get transferred before we can close. And the last thing to get prepared for moving, of course, is packing. You need to make sure you are packed, ready to go. You need to get your truck ready. You need to get all that stuff, but make sure you have all your documents, all the stuff you need to close handy. Don't leave them in a drawer and then pack that and move it and put it into storage somewhere. Make sure you have all those documents, but be ready to go. And that takes us all the way up to step number 7, the biggest one, which is closing day. Everyone loves closing day. Now you need to get your wrist ready for closing day because unlike everything else we've done so far, which has been digital, you need to sign these in ink. So you're going to be signing a ton of documents, especially if you have a loan. If you're paying cash, you don't have that much to do, but your loan documents are the majority of all the paperwork that you're doing. This is probably the property and this is like the loan. So you got a ton of stuff to sign with the loan documents because they're going to want their $500,000 back. So make sure you are prepared and ready to come and sign everything. Closings usually typically take anywhere from 45 minutes to 2 hours, depending on how much is going on with the property. And once we're all signed and the sellers have signed too, then congratulations, you just bought yourself a home. Now, depending on the way the contract was written or what's going on, you may or may not be able to take possession straight away. If we've done a post-occupancy agreement or anything like that where the seller can stay on a little bit longer, then you can get the keys, you've got everything you need, but you can't move into the property yet. But typically, the day that you close is the day that you can move in and do all your stuff. Now, the biggest things that a lot of people mess up on closing day is bringing the money that you are responsible for your down payment. A lot of people come with a checkbook and just try and write a check, but personal checks cannot be used at the title company for closing. It has to be either a money order, a wire, or a certified cashier's check. You have to bring one of those. So the best thing to do is to get that money in order a few days before closing. The last thing you want to do is call the bank or walk into the bank the day of closing and then telling you it's going to take 24 hours to get that check. That is going to be a nightmare. It can have some legal ramifications on the contract. Now, hopefully the sellers are cool and we can get that all figured out. But do me a favor, get your check 2 days before and you'll be all sound and good to go. And once you've signed everything, we're done. You're a homeowner now. Congratulations. We'll do a picture with the big key or the big thing or whatever for social media, of course, because we all love that stuff. And you'll get the keys, you'll get all the documents, and you've just bought yourself a home. You did it. You got through the process, the 7 essential steps. It can take a long time and it can be a grueling process, but if you break things down, you can get all the way to the end in a smooth fashion. So that is the 7 big things. I promised you there was an 8th one, which is more fun, which is, of course, your housewarming party, which I will be the guest of honor, of course, and bring you a nice bottle of whatever you drink. So there you have it. Those are the 7 big steps to the home buying process. It's really not that bad, is it? Once you break things down, really we're just getting our money in order, we're finding a house, we're getting through the contract, closing, and then we're having a big party. So really it's not that bad at all. Now, if you have any questions about any of these steps, drop a comment below. I'll be happy to answer anything. Make sure you download the buyer's guide in the description below. That'll put everything that we've talked about today into a little more context with more detail, and you can fill in that wish list stuff and kind of start to see the picture of what you're looking for in a home. All right, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. As always, we will have more videos next week on tips and tricks for buyers, sellers, and investors. My name is Lewi Gault. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'll see you next time. Take care. Bye.